Yes, I see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's call. Before we get started, today's call has a different aspect that I wanted to let everyone know about in the beginning. During the presentation today, we will be showing a short video clip. During that video clip, the sound is going to be played through your computer audio. If you are on the phone and do not have the computer audio on, or if you are on the phone only, please note that you will not be able to hear the sound during the presentation. So all of the information has to go through, sound will be going through the computer audio. At this time, I would like to welcome Greg Core, the Director of Monitoring and State Improvement Planning with the Office of Special Education Programs. Greg?
Thank you, Jennifer, and welcome everyone to what I promise will be the very, very last TA call for 2019 from OSEP. We're excited because we're just about 6 weeks away from the February 3rd, 2020 submission for our FFY18 SPP APR. That being said, we have a two-part call today. Excuse me. We're going to be starting off with MSIP's data implementation team, providing some guidance on pre-finding correction and the correction identified non-compliance in the submission of your FY18 SPP APR. The second part of the call, then, we will be turning over to the AEM folks who are working very hard, have been working very hard to get our new SPP APR platform ready for submission. So one last thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Angela Tanner-Dean is that Part C and 619 coordinators should take note that ECTA and DAISY are inviting you to participate in a follow-up TA call to discuss information that OSEP will be sharing with you today during this national TA call. The TA call for ECTA and DAISY is scheduled for Friday, January 3rd at 2 p.m. It will provide an opportunity for states to discuss the clarifications provided by OSEP and to share strategies used in applying these requirements to their state's general supervision and APR reporting activities. So be on the lookout for an announcement from ECTA and DAISY in order to register for this call. All right, Angela, I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Angela Tanner-Dean. I'm one of the Associate Division Directors here in MSEP, and I work most closely with the data implementation team, who is responsible for reviewing and providing technical assistance and support around the SPP APR. Have a couple of quick announcements first, and I'm noticing that I have the wrong PowerPoint up, so I'm going to keep talking while my colleague Christine Pilgrim tries to support me and pull up the one that does not say draft. The data IT facilitator, Jennifer Wolsheimer, is on leave today, so I've recruited Christine to provide some technical assistance and support to me during this call. So just a couple of quick announcements. Greg already mentioned the ECTA and DAISY call that will be held in January, and we also wanted to share that the data displays are live and can be found on the GRADS website. As we've mentioned previously, the GRADS website will be sunsetting, and the page will no longer be active in 2020, but throughout this fiscal year, we will continue to have the ability to post information. So for now, you can find the data displays on the GRADS website. For those of you who may not be familiar, this document used to be issued along with determinations to all states, a very useful tool to access all of the data that you submit through 618. Now we issue it separately and hope that you find it useful in your work with your stakeholders. In addition to additional TA and support that Daisy and ECTA will be offering as a follow-up to this call, you can also reach out to your assigned state lead and partner support if you have any additional questions. Okay, yay. Here we go. We've got the correct PowerPoint up. Thank you, Christine. You're there. Great. Okay, so the purpose of this call today, as Greg mentioned, we will be reviewing information regarding reporting on pre-finding correction and the correction of noncompliance, and then we will be previewing the new STP APR reporting tool, specifically related to login and navigation. For the purposes of our call today, we're focusing on two specific reporting requirements for the compliance indicators in the STP APR. However, states should be aware that there are other reporting requirements for each indicator that are outlined in the measurement table. So you can reference that document for additional information. Consistent with the measurement table for compliance data, states must report data for the appropriate FFY and information about the timely correction of noncompliance. If a state reports less than 100% for the previous reporting period, for example, for the FFY 2018 SPP APR, the data for FFY 17, and the state did not identify findings of noncompliance, provide an explanation of why the state did not identify any noncompliance. This has been standard language in our OSEP response for several years. What we wanted to highlight, though, as a reminder for states, is specific to the first bullet on the PowerPoint, the data for the appropriate FFY. We want to remind states that it is inconsistent with the STP APR measurement table to report FFY actual target data that includes data from that was collected after correction of noncompliance. Next slide, please. Although most states have been reporting correctly, in some instances, OSEP has noticed issues indicating that there might be states who are reporting corrected data as part of their indicator data. We wanted to remind states that while the SEA or lead agency may provide LEA programs or LEAs or EIS programs the opportunity to correct noncompliance prior to the issuance of a written finding, the percentage reported in the APR must reflect the LEA EIS program's actual level of compliance, also referred to as actual target data prior to the opportunity to correct any noncompliance. Next, we have included a few slides to refresh everyone's memory around identification and timely correction of noncompliance reporting requirements. This information is not new, but we recognize that we have had turnover in the state director and coordinator positions, so we think it's worth reviewing briefly. This slide is a visual representation of the two options states have after collecting or receiving data indicating noncompliance. Slides 10 and 11 provide more detailed information about each option. Option 1, making a finding. The state pulls the data from a database or identifies noncompliance through monitoring and makes a written finding. Written notification of findings need to occur as soon as possible after the state concludes that the LEA or EIS program has noncompliance. Generally, we would expect that written findings be issued less than 3 months after discovery. Or option 2, pre-finding corrections. The state identifies noncompliance, but consistent with its general supervision system, allows the LEA or EIS program to correct the noncompliance before the state issues the written finding of noncompliance. For those of you who may have accessed a similar PowerPoint presentation from a number of years ago, we wanted to note that our previous presentations had a third circle. We have not removed an option, but rather have updated this slide in order to improve clarity. So as I mentioned before, slide 10, this is more specific information regarding the option 1 that I previously described. And then the next slide, pre-finding correction, we wanted to spend a little bit more time discussing. If the LEA or EIS program immediately, i.e. before the state issues a finding, corrects noncompliance and provides documentation of such correction, the state may choose not to make a finding if consistent with its general supervision system. The state still must confirm that the state must still confirm noncompliance identified is correctly implementing the specific regulatory requirements and has corrected each individual case of noncompliance unless the child is no longer within the jurisdiction of the district, consistent with OSEP Memo 0902. So this is referencing the requirements for correction. I'm going to read through a little example. A state monitored 100 files and 5 LEAs on a compliance indicator and found the following levels of compliance. LEA number 1, 20 out of 20 files were compliant at 100%. LEA number 2, 10 out of 20 files were compliant at a rate of 50%. LEA 3, 19 out of 20 files were compliant at the rate of 95%. LEA number 4, 18 out of 20 files were compliant at the rate of 90%. And finally, LEA number 5, 14 out of 20 files were compliant at the rate of 70%. In the week following the monitoring activity, LEA number 3 and number 4 both submitted data demonstrating correction for the individual file found out of compliance and subsequent data showing 100% compliance for the actions since the noncompliance. The state reviewed documentation, verified correction, and did not issue a written finding of noncompliance for LEAs 3 and 4. The state made and issued written findings of noncompliance for LEAs 2 and 5. Both corrected the noncompliance within the 1-year timeline. In terms of reporting in the APR, the state should report 81% compliance, which would be the compliance rate across all 5 LEAs that were monitored. Even though LEAs 3 and 4 corrected prior to a written finding being issued, the actual target data for this indicator is the initial monitoring data that was collected. The state may not consider initial or subsequent correction when it reports the data for this indicator. Correction of noncompliance. Verification of correction. I mentioned this briefly on the earlier slide. Verification of correction is required regardless of whether or not a written finding was issued or if the state chooses to allow for pre-finding correction consistent with its general supervision system. Another reminder regarding reporting on verification of correction. OSEP expects that states would include details about their individual process for verifying correction specific to each compliance indicator and not simply restate the language that is contained in OSEP's 0902 memo. This slide outlines the 2 expectations regarding reporting on verification of correction. States must ensure that the regulatory requirements are being met, 100% compliance based on the review of updated data, and that each individual case of noncompliance has been corrected, although late, unless the requirement no longer applies or the child is no longer within the jurisdiction of the EIS or LEA. If a state does not correct or verify correction of the identified noncompliance within 1 year, the noncompliance should stay open in the year that it was identified. The state should not open a new finding in a subsequent year for the same legal requirement or standard. For example, if the SCA makes a finding in FFY 2016 and the LEA has yet to demonstrate correction, the finding would remain open and be reported in the FFY 2016 correction of noncompliance section for the given indicator. Long-standing noncompliance. States must determine what further action is needed and report it within the APR. What has the state done to identify causes of continuing noncompliance, and what the state is doing about the continued noncompliance, including any sanctions or enforcement. Previous OSEP guidance related to the content that we've covered today can be found at the following links. The frequently asked questions issued September 3rd, 2008, and OSEP Memo 0902, also issued in 2008. We hope that this information has been helpful. Again, we would like to note that this should not be new information. The content was pulled from previously released guidance, but we thought that it would be a good reminder as states prepare for their February 3rd submission. We do have a couple of minutes before we need to turn it over to Joe Murphy and our contractors to talk about the APR reporting platform. So we can take a few questions if there are any questions specific to this information that we just shared.
Angela, we had one question that came in during the presentation asking, is the data for child find on GRADS 360?
Yes, I believe that a blast went out, an email blast went out through the Partner Support Center. I can try to pull that up while during the next section of the presentation, but those static tables had not been posted as of last week. I do not have an update. I was actually out of the office last week, so I'll double check on that, but I believe a message went out recently indicating that they would be posted soon, available soon.
Okay, and then the next question came in while you were on slide 11. The question was concerning, it asked if you could share the list of the LEA options being discussed.
Yes, I'm happy to share the example. I know it was probably hard to follow without a visual. We'll put it in the slide and have it added to what's posted.
Okay. The next question that came in, are the scenarios around fixing noncompliance written up and available as part of this webinar?
I assume they are referencing the LEA example. So yes, we'll add it to a slide. If the question was related to some other example that was provided, maybe the person could clarify what they are asking for.
Okay. And then it said, please explain how to correct individual noncompliance for indicators 4B, 9, and 10. So
not all states make individual findings related to 4A, 4B, 9, and 10, and OSEP acknowledges that. So if you are a state that does make individual findings of noncompliance for these indicators based on whatever process you use in your policy, practice, and procedure review, there would be an expectation that you would address that in your APR. However, if you are a state that only makes systems findings related to these indicators, the only expectation would be that you would address the correction as it relates to the regulatory requirements when you provide a narrative in your SPP APR. That's the short answer, but if whoever asks that wants to talk through your specific SPP APR and how you have been reporting under these indicators, you can definitely email me directly, or you can contact me through your state lead.
Okay, and the last question that we have is, it was concerning if you could say or repeat what you said about not repeating the 0902 language.
Yes, so we've actually noticed that states have made quite a bit of progress in this area over the last few years, but there's still some states that we do comment during clarification. The expectation is that for each state, and sometimes even for different compliance indicators within the state, there's a specific process that states go through to verify correction. So we would expect that for each indicator within your state, you describe the exact process that you use. So if you are pulling subsequent data from a database, if you are going back and doing on-site file reviews, whatever process you are doing, that is what we would look for you to describe in your narrative. We would not be accepting just general boilerplate language that previously, when we first kind of started this process, states would kind of cut and paste language from the memo. And again, I think that the majority of states are providing specific information, but this is just a reminder that that's what we would be looking for in our review.
And then one more came in. It said, example of indicator 12 data clarification. LEA reports through statewide data collection compliance on 12 of 13 early childhood transitions. After the initial pull of information, the LEA provides documentation that the one file was in compliance with timelines. Would this be required to be documented as non-compliance?
We're pausing because I think the question, even though it sounds straightforward, it could be nuanced, because the LEA could be providing information that there was a typo or something technical that indicated that the initial data pull was not a valid data pull, versus the LEA provided updated information to indicate that the initial pull had been corrected. I think we would need a little bit more information to feel confident in answering that answering that question. And we're happy to chat with folks offline. So it's 4:27. I do want to make sure that our colleagues from AEM have sufficient time to cover their material. So I'm going to pass it on to Joe. And then at the end of the call, if there's still time, we're happy to take additional questions related to the SPP APR content. Joe, it's all yours.
Great. Thanks so much, Angela. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody today. From those of you who remember, I was up in the front of the room at the OSEP Leadership Conference with some members of the contracting team. Becca introduced us all. But we've been hard at work since that time on producing a new SPP APR system. And the folks at AEM, the contractors, have developed a very good system that several of you have seen. We did allow some folks to see some of the work that was done through focus groups that we asked for participation in. And then even some of you were made the effort to come here and participate in our user acceptance testing live on site and see the system firsthand, which we think went really well. And as I mentioned at the time, that's a unique opportunity that has been afforded through this development process. It's been new, as far as I know, to all the federal government, but certainly Department of Education in consulting with the people who will eventually be using the system and providing the data. I know it sounds pretty basic as an idea, but it's kind of revolutionary for the federal government, so we're doing the best we can. But I wanted to spend some time today, or the Partner Support Center did. Audrey Rudick and Alec Walker have been hard at work at preparing training materials, a webinar, also an online, some online system videos that we'll see the very first one of today, and they will go through just some basic off the top type stuff, and we can take some technical questions if need be, and we'll take questions after they're done. So thank you all for participating today and for the opportunity to be here with you and speak to you. I'll turn it over to the Partner Support Center now.
Thank you, Joe. So like Joe said, my name's Audrey Rudick. I'm here with the EdFax Partner Support Center. Today, I'm going to provide just an overview of the technical resources and processes that we are developing to assist you with the submission of the FFY18 SPP APR. We'll go over some frequently asked questions about user accounts, review where TA materials will be located, share a tiny bit of information with you about the technical webinar, and then we'll have a video presentation to give you a preview of the tools functionality for logging in and some high-level navigational functionality. And we'll wrap up with plenty of time for your questions regarding the tool. So for user accounts, thank you all to everybody for returning your user account information. We have that from just about everybody we need it from. User accounts will be created on December 30th and sent to all new users by December 31st. We are doing it on those dates because new account passwords expire after 7 days, and we wanted to maximize your time after the system has been opened with your accounts, with the holidays coming up, to log into your account before that expiration date. Of course, if you run into any problems, partner support is here. Not on federal holidays, but we are here from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time throughout the work week. Users with existing EMAPS accounts will not get a new user account sent to them. The credentials to access the SPP APR will be added to your EMAPS account, and you will have the access on January 1st. And so if you have access to a Part B or Part C survey, then you certainly know about EMAPS and have access to that. And a broadcast has been sent to you all. Any users who are registered with information about the process, you should have received that from us earlier today. So technical assistance materials will be located at the SPP APR community site. You all know this as the grad site. Some videos have already been posted. We have a few more to come. The user guides will be available at that location, as well as some other TA materials. And we'll also be sending out user guides via email with the system open broadcast. Finally, we'll be having a technical webinar. We'll have one for Part B and one for Part C on the week of January 6th. We'll send out more information, including a registration link in the coming days here. And now we're going to go ahead and have a quick sneak peek, excuse me, at the APR tool via our video about logging in and navigating the SPP APR. Again, for your reference, the video and other TA videos are located at the website listed here. So I'll go ahead and send that back over to Jennifer, who will show the video. One note about that video: the sound for it will be unavailable by phone. It will be available only through your computer. So be sure you're listening in with computer audio. Thanks.
Okay, everyone, give me a moment just to start up the video.
Okay, well, thank you. And that concludes our kind of preview of the SPP APR tool, and we'll go ahead and open it up for questions now. So Jennifer?
All right, Audrey, just before she does that, I just wanted to inform people that we will be launching on January the 1st, as we had promised. That is a federal holiday. So the Partner Sports Center will be closed, but those videos will be available to you. There's some of them are available right now, but they'll be available to you if you need help logging in, if you're getting in there on January 1st and you want to go ahead and work. That will be available to you, and you can use the videos to go ahead and access the system and start kicking around in there. And then they'll be back bright and early on Thursday morning, January the 2nd, to answer any questions that have come in over that time on the phone or email while they were away. So we can go ahead and use that. We look forward to launching the new system with everybody. As we said, we got some feedback from everybody in ahead of time, and we feel like we've put together a very fine system. We'll hopefully we'll minimize the number of growing pains and exceed the initial performance of grads and continue to build up with some adaptability for changes in the future and improve performance. So stick with us, and we will work our way through everything that comes up from the January 1st launch to the February 3rd deadline. So I will, as Audrey mentioned, turn it over to Jennifer now for questions, and I'll help guide the responses to those questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Just a reminder, we did have one question come in during the presentation. They were having a problem hearing the video. The person was on the phone only. So just as a reminder that if you are on phone only, the sound for the video could only be heard through the computer. However, as we do with all of the monthly TA calls, this call is being recorded, and all of the sound from the video will play in that, and that video is going to be posted on the Grads 360 site in the next few days after this call. So questions, we did have several questions come in during the presentation. The first question was, will the requirements for updating passwords change with eMaps? I've had the same login and password for years, and the system has never asked for an update.
For the eMaps system, it would be my first question, and I don't know if somebody on the technical end of things would speak to how often we would have to reset those or update those.
Yeah, so this is Alec from Partner Support. The eMaps passwords actually don't expire. So if you have had an account for a few years, maybe accessing eMaps or other surveys, you can continue with that password. If you'd like to change it, you can change it in the settings of eMaps as well.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question I'm going to do in two parts because they're pretty connected. It said, will all of the preloaded data be in the system on January 1st, and will the data be pre-populated as it was in past years?
That is a technical question, and it will. We'll have the assessment data that your states have submitted in the past week or so pre-filled in there, and I don't know if there are additional details that the technical team can provide about the full extent of all the pre-filled data that we're going to be putting in
there. Yes, Joe, that is correct. The pre-filled data from the EDVAC system will be preloaded as well as, or pre-filled as will be the preloaded data, which is the data, historical data entered for past years. So you can expect to see that when the system opens.
Okay, the next question that came in, is there functionality in the new APR tool to upload data en masse through a CSV or some other type of standard data input?
And technical team want to jump on that one?
Jennifer, this is Sheba. I'm going to try to answer that question. If I understand it correctly, the new system does allow uploads. So we encourage the states to upload attachments, but I believe the question is asking CSV format for the actual fields to be populated. That will not be available with the tool. So I do ask the person that asked that question if that was what they were asking for, whether they were asking for an upload capability that would upload the fields that need to be populated. That will not be possible with the tool, but if they were talking about an Excel format as an attachment, that is possible. So I do look forward to that person potentially, asking the follow-up question so we can make sure we answered that correctly.
Perfect, thank you. The next question that came in, will TA providers have access to EMAPs? Please let us know what we need to do to gain access.
Well, your state directors and coordinators should have already informed us of those folks that they want to get into the system and provide the data through EMAPs. If your state director or state coordinator did not identify you, you should talk to that person, and together you two can contact the Partner Support Center and get the situation resolved.
Perfect, thank you.
Joe?
Oh,
hi, Joe. And Christine and Angela here from MSIP. So we just want to be clear as we're providing a response to the person who asked. So our TA providers are not state agency employees.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you, Christine. I get it. So no, at this time, the TA providers would not also get access. And you can share whatever you want with them, not your account information, but any information from the system, you can share that as you deem necessary.
Okay, the next question that came in, do you have a schedule of when data will be pre-populated from EDFACS?
Do you all have that handy over there, AEM? I know we're grabbing last week's assessment data and the previous year's information, and I believe there may have been other aspects to it if you have that handy.
Hey, Joe, this is Angela. I wonder if it would be helpful for us to just send those dates out in a blast.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. So the next question that came in then is, can we request access to Grads 360 for staff who have not had access previously? The individual has had access to EMAPs.
That's an internal decision at the state level. Those that you, as state employees, as Christine made the distinction earlier, those that are necessary or need to be able to access the system so that you can provide the data that we need here at the federal level, that's under the control of the directors and the coordinators. So that can be accomplished with an email from the director or coordinator to the Partner Support Center, identifying the individual who needs access, as well as the level of access that they need, and providing contact information, which includes a state email address.
And Joe, this is Sheba again. The second video that has been posted to the community site does relate to the user accounts. So hopefully that will provide feedback to whoever asked the question, if they do need access, what access to request to their state person. But just so you know, those different user levels are out there in the second video on the site.
Great, thanks.
Perfect, thank you. The next question that came in, does OSEP have a backup plan in case the new system encounters a large volume of glitches that prohibits states from submitting an accurate FFY 18 APR?
I would not say that is a backup plan in place. We're going to continue to ensure that the performance meets the level and the standard so that you all can submit the data that we need here at the federal level. As we monitor performance, which we will continue to do, we will continue to provide as many improvements as we can, and certainly tips and help for. We do recommend, we're expecting a heavy level of volume. It's a short period of time that you have to respond. We do recommend seeking out times when the volume on the system might be a little less than others. So early in your day, if you're on the East Coast, or later in your day, if you're towards the West side. Just working around and trying to find times when the system is less busy than others.
Excellent, thank you. The next question that came in, will the final PDF version of the APR be able to show images, charts, graphs as part of the actual PDF document rather than only as separate attachments?
Shiva, I'm going to let you explain that one if you don't mind, in terms of how the final report portrays itself or renders.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm sure you all are bringing that question up because I did talk about uploading the attachments. You probably heard from your counterparts about the new tool not supporting the rich text. We are expecting that you will upload those attachments with your images and graphs, and at the end of the final review, there will be a final document. We are trying to work on a technical solution for it, but we as OSEP contractor will be putting those final documents together. So it will include the images in line. So you will have a final pretty document at the end of the final review period.
Okay, the next question that came in, if we have already submitted a list of users but need to add people, how do we do this?
Email from the coordinator to the Partner Support Center, the director or the coordinator from the Partner Support Center, CCing that person with a state email address, contact information for that person. And of course, the important thing, as we've referenced a couple times, is the user access level, the type of user that they'll be. And as Shiva mentioned, the second video that is posted there would have information that describes that a little bit better.
This is along the same lines, but I know it's kind of a little different vein. The question is, what about contractors that have populated APR in the past? Are they allowed to access the system?
That's a tougher question that we would have to get together with OSEP on and see where we end up. I don't know if Angela, your team has any initial reads on that, or a discussion should take place offline, and we'll get back to that person.
Joe, sorry, this is Christine, not Angela, but Angela and I are together. Yes, let's chat offline and we can follow up with a response to states on that.
Great, thanks. We'll put that together with a blast, some sort of broadcast, and make sure that we share that information with the entire group.
Perfect, thank you. The next question that came in the past, there was a map of the country and anyone could look at the data. Will something similar be available?
I'm not sure where that would have been. Do you, Christine and Angela, know where we're talking about?
I think that might be a reference to kind of the way that the public would access each individual state's SPP APR. So there'll still be a mechanism for the public to access the final PDF of state submissions. I think that's what the person might be asking about. I don't know that visually it will look the same in terms of having a map, but yes, all of the final APRs will be publicly available and accessible to all users.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the next question that came in, if we didn't include the person who currently has eMAPS access on our request, will their eMAPS access be terminated?
No, they still have access to the other systems that they need, assuming they're still employed by the state and still need access to those other eMAPS surveys. Their access will still function as normal. If you do need to add them, It helps in your request if you just say this person already has an eMaps access account. I should have mentioned that before, but if you do send an email asking for someone to be added or to have this SPP APR added to their eMaps account, that's information that would help the Partner Support Center get it done more quickly. So just say, hey, they've already got an eMaps account and we need to add them to the SPP APR.
Perfect, thank you. The next question that came in, where will the public-facing APRs be displayed?
I would imagine the grad site, but we'll probably provide final information on that sometime in the near future.
Excellent. The next question is, will there be a discussion forum like on the previous grads system, or will that one continue to be used this year?
I believe our decision was to go away from the discussion forum, but Angela or Christine or even the technical team, I don't know if you want to jump in on that one too.
Hi, Christine and Angela here. So there was a decision that we would not move forward with the discussion board in the same manner that was previously on grads, but we have been in conversations with AEM about ensuring that there's a space where all broadcast messages will be posted in the community so folks can go back and see what was said. And also, since we're encouraging states to submit all questions through the PSC, which is different from how states have operated in the past. Usually we just say reach out to your state lead, but we're trying to encourage states to submit questions through the PSC so that there's a historical record of questions that have come in, and as they get elevated to us as policy calls and we give responses, then they're in writing and those can also be posted so folks are able to see them. But there will not be a discussion board as there was in grads previously.
Jennifer, I just want to do a time check. We've got about 3 minutes left, so I don't know how many more questions are in the queue.
Right now, it looks like 5.
Okay, well, maybe we can just try to get through as many as we can before 5 o'clock. I do want to make a quick announcement, though. I wanted to share that NCSI will also be offering a follow-up to this conversation, and more details will follow, but we didn't want our Part B friends to feel left out, and we received a message that NCSI will also be holding a TA session to follow up on this call. So with that, Jennifer, I guess keep on going through the next few questions, see how many we can get through.
Excellent. All right, the next question that came in, if the new tool does not support rich text, what is your preference for us to include hyperlinks?
An attachment.
Perfect.
As Shiva mentioned, it does support attachments. Will support all of the stuff that you're accustomed to providing in previous systems.
Excellent. The next question is, what will the new data display, or sorry, will the new data displays allow states to compare state-to-state data?
I'm not as familiar with the data displays. That's a 618 product, I believe.
Hi, this is Angela again. So the data displays as they are issued now are individual PDFs. So there's no mechanism for, I mean, they're not interactive or web-based, but sounds like there might be an interest in that. But for now, they're just individual PDF documents that are individual by state.
Okay, the next question that came in, will SPP APR from years previous to FFY 2018 be available on Grad 360 or on this new site?
On the they should be on the previous year, should be on the grad site, and then the one from the year previous will be within the tool. Do I have that correct, AEM?
That's correct, yeah. And as we mentioned with the new year, we're going to talk about putting those previous year PDFs on the tool as well. But I believe you all would have gotten the message from MSIP about the 508 compliance that's required as attachments. I believe they found a lot of the previous year PDFs were not 508 compliant based on some of the graphs and things like that. So we are working with MSIP. We will only post those to the new tool once they have been made 508 compliant. So they will not be there for day one, but we are working with the MSIP team on that. But as the grad site is not going away for this beginning part of 2020, when you do the 18 collection, you will have access to those under the research tab like you do right now.
Excellent. And then we'll get one more question in. The question that came in, is there a limit to the number of accounts per state?
The limit is reason, which is tough. 4, 5, 6, what you need to provide the data effectively. If people start asking for access to everybody and their brother in the system, then we will start running short on licenses. But whatever you need to provide and the data effectively to us here at the federal government, then we should be able to find a way to accommodate that.
Excellent. Joe, if anyone has questions that come up after this that they think of, who should they reach out to?
The number at the end of that video is listed there for the Partner Support Center, and we encourage everybody to reach out to them for many of these questions. All the ones certainly that I answered or passed over to the AEM team, that's where they should go to get an answer for those questions now. And we'll keep them documented, and if need be, we escalate. We have an escalation procedure that is shared for policy guidance up to the OSEP crew so that they are able to provide input. They also have access to all those tickets whenever they need to see them, technical or otherwise. But we're all in the loop if you contact the Partner Support Center for technical questions, policy questions, whatever it might be.
Perfect, thank you. Angela or Greg, do you have anything that you'd like to say in closing?
Hi, I'm just going to say happy holidays on behalf of Greg. He needed to sign off a little bit early, so we thank everyone for joining us for this second call of December, and we'll talk to everyone in the new year.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending today's event, and have a wonderful day.